Next, on Currents News, tackling a big challenge from the clerical sex abuse crisis, how to educate young people about what's going on. President Donald Trump takes on a big role at the United Nations. He chairs the Security Council and targets an American opponent. New allegations against Judge Brett Kavanaugh as the battle over his nomination heats up before tomorrow's big public hearings. Plus, Bill Cosby's first day behind bars. A look at him and the Pennsylvania prison where he'll stay. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. A major challenge for Catholics during the clerical sex abuse crisis is the education of young people. At the only high school of its kind in the U.S., the priest in charge is taking action. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports.
How did the exodus start?
For Christopher Santagata, the church's sex abuse crisis brings mixed emotions for him and his classmates.
I feel like we're all in the same state of sadness and disappointment.
The high school sophomore says though students need to be educated about the scandal, there's a place and a time for it.
I do think it should be brought up, but not to an extent where we're talking about it every day.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
That's what's happening at Cathedral Prep School and Seminary in Elmhurst, Queens. Cathedral Prep is the only all-boys Catholic high school in the United States where teenagers spend their days in the classroom and at Mass. Students are discerning whether God is calling them to the priesthood.
So don't give up on your dreams and your hopes.
The school's rector-president, Father Joseph Ponte, said the young men are encouraged to express their emotions about the abuse scandal. In a 2-page letter addressed to the nearly 160 students and their parents, Father Fonte addressed the crisis and assured the students of their well-being while at Cathedral Prep.
It is a priority. It should be a priority, and whenever somebody needs to share like a healthy family, we need to listen.
Sophomore Patrick Ruby says the scandal has been on his mind too.
It's concerning, especially since it's been going on for a long time.
But he's optimistic for the future of the church.
It's important to stay strong in the faith, especially in crisis, because that's when the church thrives, when it's being persecuted.
For these students, they say the scandal has had an impact.
Not really my faith, but more trusting people, because my faith in God will always be the same as long as I continue it.
If I look at the grand scheme of things, I think that we have to have trust and faith that it's going to be okay.
More importantly, these students said that facing the sexual abuse crisis has possibly strengthened their vocation.
If anything, it encourages me to become priest even more, because I can be a better priest and show a better example to the young ones that not all priests are bad.
God has a plan for me, and if it's being a priest in a time of crisis, I think that's, I shouldn't try to get away from it just because it's difficult.
In Elmhurst, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
In just a few moments from now, Father Fonte will be here with me. We'll discuss the letter he wrote and the impact of the crisis on the church and the children. The interview with Father Fonte is still ahead in this newscast. There are going to be investigations into Theodore McCarrick in 4 Catholic dioceses. As U.S. bishops await the appointment of special Vatican investigators, they're opening their own probes in New York, Washington, D.C., Newark, and Camden, New Jersey. The task? Uncover how McCarrick, with a history of sex abuse, was able to climb the ranks of leadership in the church. The Bishop of Brooklyn, Nicholas DiMarzio, has written a major report on clerical sex abuse for this week's edition of The Tablet. He describes the hard facts and figures so that readers would become fully aware of the depth of the situation. Bishop DiMarzio vows that evil will not have the last word, and the church needs to respond even more urgently to better strengthen abuse prevention. You can read all of what the bishop has written in the current edition of The Tablet. The newspaper publishes important stories that can't be found anywhere else. Subscribe to The Tablet right now. Save up to 55%. Go to the website, thetablet.org/home55, or call 1-877-883-8356. Fresh off his Baltic tour, Pope Francis addressed the pilgrims in St. Peter's Square today. The Holy Father talked about his mission to recall how important it is to give meaning to the freedom the Baltic states regained after the Nazi and Soviet occupation.
La mia missione era annunciare nuovamente a quei popoli
la gioia del Vangelo e la rivoluzione della tenerezza, della misericordia, perché la libertà non basta a dare senso e pienezza alla vita senza l'amore, amore che sempre viene da Dio.
The Pope also explained that his trip was important because people suffered for many years and put their faith aside. Pope Francis is very optimistic about the Vatican's new deal with China. In a lengthy message to Chinese Catholics, the Holy Father said the agreement on the appointment of bishops is a step toward bettering the relationship between church and state. He added that the agreement contributes to a, quote, new chapter of the Catholic Church in China, and faith changes history. President Donald Trump took the chair to lead the United Nations Security Council this morning. America's leader spoke to world leaders on a number of topics with an emphasis on Iran. He had a mixed message praising the country for restraint in Syria while warning of tougher sanctions.
All U.S. nuclear-related sanctions will be in full force by early November. They will be in full force. After that, the United States will pursue additional sanctions, tougher than ever before, to counter the entire range of Iran's malign conduct. I want to thank Iran, Russia, and Syria for, at my very strong urging and request, substantially slowing down their attack on Idlib province and the 3 million people who live there in order to get 35,000 targeted terrorists. Get the terrorists, but I hope the restraint continues. The world is watching.
The president also accused China of trying to meddle in November's U.S. elections. Iran's president responded shortly after Trump spoke. Hassan Rouhani said America was alone in the world by rejecting the Iranian nuclear deal, also known as the JCPOA.
It became clear that America is alone. All the countries that spoke in the UN Security Council supported the JCPOA, either directly or indirectly, and referred to the American action as an incorrect action.
Rouhani also said Iran will wait for Trump to lose power before renewing negotiations with the United States. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with the president today at the UN. Both leaders stressed the strong ties between the two nations, while Trump talked about a two-state solution to the Palestinian conflict.
I like two-state solution. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think works best. I don't even have to speak to anybody. That's my feeling. Now, you may have a different feeling. I don't think so, but I think two-state solution works best.
The president said the administration will release its Israeli-Palestinian peace plan in the next 2 to 4 months. All eyes will be on Capitol Hill tomorrow as Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh and the woman who is accusing him of sexual assault take the stand. Omar Jimenez has that report.
All 10 Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee are urging President Trump to withdraw Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination or order an FBI investigation after a third accuser has come forward. In a signed affidavit, Julie Swetnick says Kavanaugh drank heavily and fondled girls at parties without their consent in the 1980s. Swetnick alleges that Kavanaugh was present at a party where she was drugged and, quote, gang raped. But she does not identify Kavanaugh as one of her alleged attackers. The Senate Judiciary Committee is now reviewing the allegations. In a statement, Kavanaugh says, quote, "This is ridiculous and from the Twilight Zone. I don't know who this is, and this never happened."
Judge Kavanaugh doesn't know her. This never happened, and he said that over and over and over again, that he never engaged in any of that behavior.
Kavanaugh is facing accusations of sexual misconduct from multiple women during the early 1980s, including Christine Blasey Ford's claim. Republicans say despite calls for a delay, tomorrow's hearing is still on.
I have a definite responsibility to hold the hearing, not only for her, but for Judge Kavanaugh.
Republican senators have called in a sex crimes prosecutor, Rachel Mitchell, to handle the questioning. Meanwhile, President Trump continued to weigh in from the United Nations Wednesday.
The Democrats are playing this game that is disgraceful. It's a disgrace to the country.
In written testimony for tomorrow's hearing, Kavanaugh says he's facing a barrage of last-minute smears. In Washington, Omar Jimenez, Currents News.
Bill Cosby spent his first day in a state prison in Pennsylvania today, and we're getting a look at what life will be like for him. This is the mugshot from the new state prison in suburban Philadelphia, where Cosby will be. He was sentenced on Tuesday to a term of 3 to 10 years in jail for drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constant years ago in his home. Now he's in a cell by himself as officials evaluate whether he should be in the general prison population or in protective custody. There's a lot more news headed your way. I'll talk with an expert, Father Joseph Fonte, the priest who runs Cathedral Prep, about the abuse crisis and its impact on young people. The Pope's special encounter with single mothers and one youngster in particular in the Baltics. And a woman who rescued pets from a hurricane has been cleared. Do you have a story idea? Something happening in your parish we should know about? We want to hear from you. Keep this email handy, newstips@desalesmedia.org. We'll be right back. More now on our coverage of the clerical sex abuse crisis and its impact on young people. In his report on actions being taken at Cathedral Prep in Queens, Tim described a letter sent to students and parents. The author is Father Joseph Fonte, the school's rector and president, and he joins us now. Father Fonte, thank you so much for being here with us.
Liz, thank you for your invitation.
You sent out a letter this summer.
Yes.
The results of the Pennsylvania grand jury case had just become public, and you had to address the scandal before these young men came back to school. Why did you decide to put it right out there, right up front, first day of school?
I had to speak about the shame that it was mine and is all of ours, the anger, the disappointment, the disgust of those reports. One of the things, every parent got the letter too, and I discussed it with the parents in the opening of the year.
So they all are part of the discussion?
They're all part of it. And
okay.
The parents were probably the ones who appreciated the letter the most, even though at the end of each boy's letter I wrote a personal note. I was really amazed that not one of them really referred to the letter. They might have made a mention of the little note that I wrote at the bottom of each of their letters, but they never talked about the letters. The parents did, and the parents thought it was a home run to keep them involved, especially the freshman parents, because they're coming to an all-boys school, a school that fosters the idea in some to consider priesthood, and a school that has priests on faculty. I didn't want them to come in there thinking like, okay, am I entering the lion's den? No, you're entering into a real environment of formative care.
Are we ignoring the children? The Holy Father said during his trip to the Baltics in Estonia that we're driving them away. We, the Catholic Church, we're ignoring them. We are not talking to the young men and women that are actually touched by this and need the understanding. Do you agree? Are we ignoring them?
Speaking for my own service to our local church and for many of my brothers who serve here very faithfully and joyfully in both Brooklyn and Queens, I think I would have to respectfully disagree with that comment of the Holy Father. I think that the priests, especially in this diocese, who have the privilege, as I have, of working with young people, are approaching them. But I have found with my own young men, simply put, being yourself, they read that and it communicates to them. There's no airs, there's no deliberate restraints on my part, but there's always that respectfulness of being aware that I am in the presence of a person.
There's a tendency in these cases to start painting the priesthood with a broad brush. How do you drive home the message that not all priests are abusers, not all priests are bad people?
I think by being a good priest. I mean, I think by being a joyful priest, a prayerful priest, by sharing the priesthood with them, whether it's in the classroom or on the basketball court, greeting them, being among them, not being afraid of them. These boys still talk about priesthood. Even even in today.
Father Fonte, as more of these cases become public, the conversation will obviously continue, and it'll probably continue historically because we'll look back on this time as a time in the church where we were damaged and we were broken. How do you move the conversation forward, especially with young men that have decided that this is the vocation they want to pursue?
They're part of the renaissance for this. I mean, it's clear that we're at a ground zero in many respects. They have to believe in a resurrection, and they're going to be the witnesses of it and the proclaimers of it.
Father Fonte, thank you so much for being part of this very important discussion, and I look forward to talking with you a lot more.
Thank you.
There were special moments when Pope Francis was in the Baltics. He met with single mothers and several groups of people being helped by the church to have better lives. Melissa Butts reports.
The Pope visited the Catholic Cathedral of Riga, where he met with people assisted by church institutions. He received this family with 9 children. The children met the missionaries of charity by chance, and since then they haven't stopped helping. The Pope saw the tomb for the former Bishop of Riga, who was martyred in a concentration camp. Inside, they welcomed him with so much enthusiasm that they made the Pope smile. Then Pope Francis listened to the story of a mother and of a man with alcoholism.
E grazie per aver condiviso anche la testimonianza di queste suore che non avevano paura di uscire e andare dove voi state per essere segno della vicinanza e della mano attesa del Dio. Tu hai detto che erano come degli angeli che venivano, no? Degli angeli che venivano a visitarvi. E così, sono degli angeli.
The Pope remembered that God always gives a new opportunity, and that is why it's important to create links between people to help them feel at home and discover their own dignity.
Lui conta sulla vostra storia, sulla vostra vita, sulle vostre mani per percorrere la città e condividere la stessa realtà che voi avete vissuto. Oggi Gesù può contare su di voi? Ognuna di voi risponde.
Before leaving, the Pope greeted some of them, but the funniest moment was this little guy, who dismissed him in a surprising way. Melissa Butts, Currents News.
The president of the Mexican Bishops' Conference, Cardinal Francisco Robles Ortega, is demanding respect after 2 trailers storing 157 corpses were found in the Mexican state of Jalisco. Local authorities made the discovery after they were alerted of a trailer emitting foul odors. The corpses, reportedly murder victims connected to organized crime, could not be kept in a morgue due to lack of space. The prayers of a mother who was deported have finally been answered. Maribel Trujillo Diaz was sent back to Mexico after authorities determined she had no legal basis to be in the U.S. Now she's reunited with her physical and her spiritual family. A service of thanksgiving.
Si alguien me pregunta, I want to thank my God for being here with my family and all of you.
That testimony is from Maribel Trujillo Diaz, a woman deported more than a year and a half ago. Today, she's giving thanks to the Blessed Mother for bringing her back to her children. She spoke through an interpreter.
Diría en oración, if anyone asks me how I spent those long months apart from my family, I will say in prayer.
This is the first time Maribel has spoken since her traumatic ordeal.
Naturalmente estaba. The fact is that I traveled to Detroit 2 weeks ago without any luggage.
All she had, a bag full of prayer books. Father Mike Puckey has supported the family through this journey.
My experience has been dealing with families that somebody is no longer there suddenly because of death.
He remembers the day in April she was deported.
They didn't get a chance to hug their mom goodbye. that she was literally swept off the street and they didn't get a chance to hug her goodbye.
But now the pain of her abrupt deportation eased by the warm, enthusiastic welcome of her spiritual family.
Maribel, Maribel, Maribel!
Maribel is in the U.S. for court proceedings regarding her case for asylum. According to her attorney, the Cleveland Immigration Court has a large backlog of cases and it could be years before a decision is made. A North Carolina woman gained national attention when she was arrested for sheltering animals during Hurricane Florence. Tonight, she is free. Tammy Hedges took in and administered medicine to 27 dogs and cats during the storm and was later accused of running an illegal veterinary operation. More than 10,000 people signed online petitions demanding all charges be dropped. Tammy has now surrendered all of the animals that did not belong to her. Still to come on Currents News.
All of a sudden I started hearing this music.
And the music has made such a big difference in the life of Patrick Littlejohn, and he thinks God has a plan. His story is next. We'll be right back. A North Carolina man has a soulful way of dealing with his health issues, and he says God wants him to share it. John Lee has that report.
Music can be the best medicine.
The piano is relaxing for me.
Pianist and composer Patrick Littlejohn says his craft has been his compass through the worst of times.
You're just feeling great, man. Don't play my CD while you're driving because it'll relax you. I'm gonna put you to sleep.
His personal journey is just one reason you shouldn't sleep on Littlejohn. Since he was 10 years old, the piano's been the constant that got him through everything from homelessness to mental health issues. At 71, it's still the driving force in his life.
I want people to have faith in themselves, and I want to be an example that you can overcome all odds.
And those odds have sometimes been stacked against him. He says in 2006, health complications from medication led to the painfully quiet time in his life. Confined to a nursing home for 4 years, unable to walk, much less play the piano.
And I was bedridden, and I had to have therapy, to learn how to walk again. And when I was able to get mobile, I was able to practice a little bit in the dining room.
Patrick's found an audience online on sites like YouTube and Django. Now he hears from fans as far away as Germany and India. Some tell him his music brings them to tears.
And you feel that God wants you to share your music with the world, and that's what's happening now.
Patrick's artistry takes him to a happy place. He emerged from rock bottom and lives to play an inspiring tune.
It makes you feel like you're doing your job.
Oh, his music is really relaxing. That was John Lee reporting, and that is Currents News. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Liz Faublas. Set your DVR to record this program so that you never miss it, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.